Welcome back to my channel. My name is Camellia and I do a bunch of things on this channel. One of which is that I share my random thoughts. And so today I'm going to be sharing one of my random thoughts with you. Oh, it's not so random. It's a little cold. It is like after 10 at night, yeah, and my heat is off because I don't like when it gets too hot in the night. So I turn the heat off so I can cool down, and then I go under my heated blanket, and it does what it needs to do. So I'm a little chilly now. But I did my face today. I went to church, and so I'm like, I'm not wasting a whole face of makeup. Not wasting it. So I might as well get this video done. So here I am. And one of the things I wanted to share with you briefly is just how sometimes we feel like God is not answering us and God has left us. I think I may have shared this or a similar sentiment in a previous video, or maybe two previous videos. But there is just this thing where sometimes it feels almost like you're doing life alone. People who promised they would stay, or people who you expected to stay, they leave, and opportunities come and they go, and life just has its twists and turns, and then you are left almost feeling like you're doing life alone, and nobody sees you, nobody hears you, nobody understands what you're going through. And it can also feel like God has left you alone, like he has not seen you, he has not heard you, and he's just watching you self-destruct. But the truth of the matter is that that is just a feeling. I shared a story recently about, me telling God that, asking him if he was, hard of hearing, and he came through. But just this week, I think it was like last week Sunday or last week Saturday, I was crying my eyes out, and I was saying to God, I am tired. I do not have it in me to fight this fight anymore. I do not have it in me to continue going through this particular situation. I want to be free of it. I want to move on. I want to just carry on with my life. I want this chapter to end. And I'm like, God, nothing is wasted with you. If there's a lesson in this that I'm supposed to catch, let me catch it. Let me get the lesson, because I do not want to retake this class. This class has gone on for too long, and I just don't want to do it anymore. And I said to God, I do not want this to go beyond the end of this month. I'm like, the month is ending in, I think it was like 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, in 2 days. And I'm like, whatever it is that you need to do, this must end before the end of the month, before the start of the new month. And so I prayed my prayer, and I got up, and I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is it. There is no purpose attached to me perpetually just sitting in this place for so long. Yeah, when everyone else involved has gone on with their lives, and you are the only one sitting here just mulling over the thing. And so I'm like, okay, they have gone on with their lives. You are here, they are living. You are barely living because you're just going through the motions. You're crying, you're not eating, you're not taking care of yourself. You're not doing all of these things. And everybody else involved, they're eating, they're carrying on with their life. They seem really well. They seem like they are happy, and they've gone on. Why am I stuck here? I'm like, God, there's a lesson in this. There is a lesson in this. Let me catch that lesson, because I do not want to do a reset. So I said that, bawled my bawling, cried my cry. I prayed my prayer. I dried my eyes. And the Spirit told me to do a number of things. And I did all of them. And I felt better. The next day I felt better and I just kept feeling better. And then one of the nights, I don't remember which night it was, I felt really down. This spirit of sadness came over me, and I'm like, God, I need a word. I need a word. So my basement is where I do most of my praying. I'm almost always, talking to God in some way, shape, or form. But my study area, I've set it up in the basement. And so it's almost like I'm going to come back to the story, but there's this presence in the basement, like in the area. Like once I go there, I will go there with the saddest of heart, and I will still be sad. But it's almost like God is there, and there is a sense of peace that washes over me eventually. Like I will be praying in the whole house, and God is everywhere. But I think because I have set that place, that particular space aside for just that, I don't do anything else in there as of now. The only reason I take my phone in there is because sometimes I record a devotional there, or I will need my phone for reference for something. But outside of that, I'm not on my phone. I'm just there in the Word, kneeling down. Sometimes I'm laying prostrate. I'm just there. And there's this presence. This peace, this reassurance that I get every time I go there. And I think it's because I've dedicated that space to God. But anyways, so I was like, God, I need a word. And I was upstairs, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to spend some time with God. This was like late at night, really. And so I got up out of bed and I went down there, and I was just flipping through the Bible. And I'm like, I don't know what to read, but God gave me a word. We're going through the Bible. We're in Numbers. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to read ahead. And the book after Numbers is Deuteronomy. So the Spirit said, read Deuteronomy. Read ahead, start with Deuteronomy. I got to Deuteronomy 1, and I started reading. Oh, gosh. And I got to, let me just find it, Deuteronomy 1. So I read Deuteronomy 1, and I got to verse 5, and it said, while the Israelites were in the land of Moab, east of the Jordan River, Moses carefully explained the Lord's instructions as follows. Verse 6. Moses said to them, when we were at Mount Sinai, the Lord or God said to us, you have stayed at this mountain long enough. It is time to break camp and move on. This is verse 7, and it told them where they were supposed to go. And verse 8 says, look, I'm giving all this land to you. Go in and occupy it, for it is the land the Lord swore to give to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all their descendants. And can I tell you something? For some reason, like when I spend time with God now, I end up crying. And it's not always because I'm sad. Sometimes I'm just like really overjoyed, because I feel like for the first time in a really long time, it feels like God is God is talking to me directly. Not it feels like God is speaking directly to me, right? And so when I went there, and the Spirit said, read Deuteronomy. And I got to verse 6, and it says, the Lord said to them, you have stayed at this mountain long enough. It is time to break camp and move on. And that's the word I needed in the moment, because when I felt sad, I was thinking about the situation. And the Lord was like, okay, I hear you, but you've been here for too long. You've sat on this mountain for too long. Now it is time to move on. And then he told them where to go. He said, go in and occupy it. And from that, I took it that, you know what? There are things that God wants to give us. There is land that he wants to give us. There are blessings, there are opportunities, there are other lessons that we need to learn. But if we stay on this particular mountain, if I stay on this mountain, I'm going to die on this mountain and not reap the promises, not benefit from the promises that God has given to me and to my ancestors and to all who've been praying for me for particular things. And so it just reassured me. Like in that moment, I'm like, God, I'm special to you. You've given me a word that I needed, because on a regular basis, I wouldn't have just flipped to Deuteronomy. I would have just stayed in Numbers and just read what we were supposed to read, the chapter that we were studying. But no, the Spirit said, go over to Deuteronomy. And it says, you have stayed on this mountain long enough. And that for me was a word. And so sometimes I think we think God isn't hearing, or we think God isn't answering us, and he's left us, but he hasn't left us, because he promised that he's going to be there, right? And so we just need to find ourselves in his presence, and we have to also be willing to listen, right? Because sometimes when I ask God, tell me something, speak to me, give me a word, or sometimes the word is like a text that I had before. It's not always like a new text or a new message that he's giving me. Sometimes it's just him reminding me that, hey, I got you. I got you. And I think God speaks to us differently. He knows us, and he knows how we respond. He knows how we understand things. He knows how we process things. And so he speaks to us differently. But I think one of the things, though, even, I'm praying and I'm like, God, what is the lesson? What is the lesson? I think one of the lessons is that I can't do life alone. And sometimes when life gets real comfortable, we tend to think that, it's us. We are responsible for what's happening. Or God gets put on the sideline. And so we start talking to people, especially when we're Christians, we start talking to people from a place of just theory. Pastor Jonathan Henderson was at our church some time ago, and he calls it parroting, where you're just saying things because they sound good and they probably fit the context based on what we're accustomed to. But he was saying, it's just us parroting. We just saying the things because it sounds right, and not necessarily because it's practical and it's relevant to the person who is experiencing something. And so, like, for me, this experience has been the hardest I've ever experienced in terms of, just, like life is segmented. You have physical, mental, spiritual. In terms of those kinds of experiences, this has been my absolute hardest. Has been the most difficult, one of the most difficult experiences I've gone through in maybe the last 10 years. And so I feel like maybe that's why I have been sitting in this thing for so long, and God is like, no, I got you. I got you. You probably don't understand any of it. You probably don't understand why life has to happen why life happened the way it did. But I promise you that it will make sense at some point. It will make sense at some point. There were many points when I was trusting him to do what it is that I wanted. And so now I'm at the place where I'm like, thinking back on my life, and I'm like, nothing that has happened has harmed me in any kind of way that has been permanent. In the moment I feel injured, in the moment I feel disappointed, in the moment I'm hurt, and in the moment I'm going through all these human emotions, I'm experiencing them. But when I look back, God has never led me wrong. God has never given me anything that I wasn't supposed to get, or taken anything from me that I was supposed to get. If he takes it, it means that it wasn't supposed to stay. If he, and so his no, I have to know. I'm at a place now where I am more trusting of God's no. I don't know how many other no's he will give me, but I think this experience has caused me to just lean into God and just make him make sense of it, especially when life is happening and none of it is making sense to you. You just have to trust that, as my best friend Ruth says, this thing is not happening to you, it's happening for you. You might not see how in the moment, because in your head you're like, really? but it works itself out. And so now when I talk about certain things to people, or I share your Bible verses, or Bible promises. I have a whole channel just based on promises in the Bible called A Promise a Day. You can check that out. But when I talk about the promises in the Bible, I'm not talking, well, not all of them, right? But when I talk about particular promises about God, being there for us, and God promising that no good thing he will withhold from us and all, I'm not talking from a theoretical perspective. Like, I still don't know what my good thing is in terms of this particular experience and how it will turn out. But I'm trusting that in the same way that the rest of my life has shaped, has turned out, he's going to shape it to be the most beautiful. He's going to blow my mind with what is to come. And so now when I share certain things with people, I'm not just sharing it from a place of, oh, this is what I'm supposed to say, this is what the Bible says, this is just theory. I'm telling you from a place of experience where I'm like, look here, lean into God. God has not left you. God has not well, abandoned and left is the same thing. He's not abandoned you. He is hearing you. Just sit long enough. Cry if you need to cry. Grieve if you need to grieve. Mourn if you need to. I think grieve and mourn is the same thing, yeah? But do everything that you need to do. But when you're doing all those things, because you're human, do not forget to trust God. Do not forget to lean into God. I've shared it so many times where I have gone to God like just there, and I'm like, God, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm going to lose my mind. Yeah, I am hurting. God, I am broken. God, why are you taking so long? I didn't withhold anything. And the thing is, sometimes we feel like we have to go to God all cute and nah, like he sees you. He knows you more than anybody else. He knows you more than you know yourself. And so just go to him and acknowledge your feelings, the good, the bad, the indifferent. Acknowledge how you feel to him. I'm like, God, I am broken. Like, I'm a broken and flawed being. And I'm like, God, if there's anything that I did that I was not supposed to do, if there's anything that I said that I was not supposed to say, if I hurt people in the process, if I did this, if I did that, Lord, show me, show me where I went wrong too. Because sometimes when we find ourselves in experiences, and our experiences always relate to someone else, or unless it's just, where's a solo thing, but there are always other people involved in our situations, in just our life processes. And sometimes when we are on one side, we tend to think that it was just the other person or the other people who did wrong, or who messed up. But we also have to take time to introspect and to ask ourselves, because sometimes we are very aware of what it is that we did, how we acted, and all of those things. And so in the process, even though I was grieving, I was praying, and I'm like, God, if there's anything that I did that I should not have done, if I disappointed you, if I, just all those different things, forgive me, and forgive the other people involved too for, where they went wrong, because people hurt, people are broken. And so we expect sometimes the world from other people, not remembering that they are broken too, in the same way that we're broken, in the same way that we're hurting, in the same way that we're dealing with life. People are dealing with life too. And so sometimes the expectations, when people don't meet our expectations, or they make decisions that are contrary to what you would have hoped or you expected, they are people too, and they have good reasons sometimes for making the decisions they make. And not everything is about you, but you also have to not neglect the you that is in that experiences those different things, the you, how you feel, and how you are processing things. But now I think I'm just like my first, and I hope it becomes not just a habit, but becomes a way of life for me, where now before I respond to anything or react, my first thing that I'm trying to do is to go to God. And like, God, what should I say? Should I say anything at all in this situation? What should I do? How should I react to this? Or do I need to react at all? You know, because Ruth, she's a whole wealth of wisdom. She always says that you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, which is just saying, don't you don't have to respond fire with fire. You don't have to respond angrily to people even when they're angry. You don't have to approach life from people's perspective. And so you don't have to match energy. And so my thing is, no, if you come at me a particular way, like the old Camellia, sometimes I'm like, am I getting soft? But the old Camellia would be like just on it, yeah, toe for toe, teeth for teeth. But no, I'm trying to see things from people's perspective. And I wonder why they reacted that way. What triggered them? Why did they say it that way? Are they hurting? Like, I'm trying to process things from people's perspective and to be a little more godly. Soft answer, turning away wrath. I'm trying to just lean into that, into becoming the version of me, not just, my best self, but become the version of me that God intended for me to be. A little less feisty, a little less reactive. Because one of the things I don't want, my social media platforms are based on, are about, just God, sharing God and, stuff like that. And for me, that's one of the things that come most naturally to me. I love God. And I don't want it to be a situation where what I say doesn't match up with who I am and how I live my life. And of course, I'm not perfect and I don't always get it right, but I'm more cognizant of that now more than ever, because I don't want to be a sounding cymbal, just a bag of noise, just talking, and my life doesn't represent what I'm sharing. I don't want it to ever be a situation where someone were to meet me outside of, social media where I share these things and they are disappointed with their interaction with me, not because, they came with false expectations, but because I do not represent the God that I speak so much about in my everyday life. And so that is one of my biggest goals for not just this year, but for the rest of my life. I want to become more and more like Jesus every day. I want to do the things that he would do. I want to respond how he would respond. I want to love the way that he would love. I want to represent or represent God to people who I come in contact with, whom I come in contact. I just want, when people meet me, they meet Jesus. That's my goal and that's my aim. And so I don't know how we got here, and so I spend a lot of time now. Ruth says, certain situations, certain experiences turn people into poets and writer. Mine has turned me into a preacher, but it's not so much of a preacher. It's just that I've always been reading my Bible, but I've been consistent with it. I've sat with it. It's my go-to now. I find myself sometimes with nothing to do, and I'm gravitating toward just spending time with God, just reading his word. And I've never read his word and left empty. Never. I've never spent time with God and not leave that space with something to encourage me, something to share with someone, to encourage somebody else. So just spend time with God. Your own time, outside at church, because sometimes I go to church and I don't really get anything nourishing. Yeah, I'll get an appetizer, I'll get a starter, but in terms like of a full me look nice, see? Mercy, me look really nice, man. The back one cut, but anyways, yeah, sometimes I go to church and I get an appetizer, I get a starter, but I don't get a full meal. And that's okay, because sometimes you have to walk with your own food. Sometimes you have to walk with your own food, and we're going to get that food at the feet of Jesus. At the feet of Jesus. So my encouragement to you is to staying at the feet of Jesus. I'm wearing my Canadian tuxedo, which is jeans on jeans. I really like jeans on jeans. Yeah, anyways, stay at the feet of Jesus, and eventually things will make sense to you. Eventually things will make sense to you. Goodbye. Have yourself an amazing day. Bye.